Welcome back to the Western Oklahoma Wake Up Show, and we're pleased to have in studio candidate for governor, former state senator Mike Mazzei. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Todd. So great to be here in Weatherford, home of the Eagles.
Yeah. And of course, we love our red tornadoes next door. You know, that's a great thing about radio. We cover all of Western Oklahoma, and we're proud to have you right here just off Route 66. Hard to believe we're celebrating 100 years, right?
Yeah, wonderful history.
Well, thanks for coming in. I know you've been all over the state. Big campaign here. We're coming down to the primary, less than a month away. Give us your thoughts on the campaign so far.
We're having a great time going all across the state of Oklahoma and talking about our plan to help create more growth, prosperity, and opportunity for our kids and our grandkids. I'm a financial planner, by background. For over 30 years, I've built financial plans for others. And now I have a plan to help Oklahoma become a no-income tax state, get property tax relief for seniors and veterans, launch a statewide massive literacy program because the data tells us 80% of kids can't read at grade level. And we want to prioritize resources for our 29 career techs like Western Technology Center here in the county, because there's 7,500 students on the waiting list, and they're hungry and motivated for a skill in a trade that can give them a good job and a great career.
Well, and I can't wait to talk about all of these issues and more because, when you get bogged down in a campaign, sometimes people, they feel like the only thing they see is a quick little mailer or a TV ad, which a lot of times it's dark money people just, claiming, oh, this person's a liberal, this person's more, and all this stuff, which is crazy. But I think the average person sees above the fray. And we just want to say, who are you as a person? What do you stand for? And so,
That's why these radio conversations are so great. We get to actually have a conversation about ideas and issues that will help Oklahoma advance with more growth and prosperity.
Well, and what's great about you, I think, as a candidate, because you do have some experience, obviously, serving in the Senate, but you're also a business owner, too, and you really need experience when you step into the governor's role, but it's also nice to have that business experience, too.
Yeah, we started a financial planning company in 1996. Today, Trinity Strategic Wealth has $1.6 billion in client assets. So that afforded me the opportunity to serve in the Oklahoma Senate for 12 years. 10 years I was the Senate Finance Chairman. And then in 2019 and 2020, I was the Oklahoma Secretary of Finance. So I do have a mastery in money and finance, and that is the exact skill set that is desperately needed in the governor's office so we can implement a bold conservative plan to become a no-income tax state, for example, so we stop losing energy companies like Devon to the no-income tax state of Texas, or we lag states like Tennessee, a no-income tax state that has had 58% more economic growth than us over a decade, and they don't have oil and natural gas.
And I want to dig into that. So how do we go, because we've had a couple of reductions in state income tax, but how do we get to zero? Because people are like, how are we going to fund state government if we don't have income tax?
We still have to pay our bills, and we still have to address core services, of course. In the first year of a Mazzei administration, I will roll out to the legislature how to reduce the state income tax from 4.5% to 3% as part one of a three-part strategy to become a no-income tax state. Part one and part two aren't that complicated. All we have to do is actually clean out of the tax code $2 billion worth of credits, rebates, exemptions, deductions. There's some big things we'll never touch, like the important sales tax exemption for manufacturing and agriculture.
Sure.
For our rural communities. That's part of the production process that leads to goods that are taxed at the actual point of sale. But by cleaning up the tax code, we can lower the rate basically from 4.5% to 2.5%, and we'll still have the same amount of tax collections that we have. Part 3 is a little bit more complicated in that we have to go to a vote of the people and say, do we want to have an activity-based model like Tennessee, or do we want to keep taxing everybody's labor, 8, 10, 12 hours of work? Well, we know from just simple economics that it's better to tax activity than it is work. And the best example I can give is in the state of Tennessee. When you go to an NBA Memphis Grizzlies game, you pay a sales tax on the ticket. Okay. For the 19,000 folks that are going to the NBA Thunder, Oklahoma City Thunder playoff games right now, they don't pay a sales tax on the ticket. Well, if we shift to an activity-based model so we have more economic power in the state of Oklahoma, and we have to tax, for example, the tickets for going to an NBA playoff game, do you think the 19,000 fans of the Oklahoma City Thunder will still go?
Probably, because we're already used to paying the event fee and the parking fee and all of these extra things they add in. I guess we wouldn't notice another, right?
In other states, they've just sort of figured out, hey, it's better to have an activity model versus an income tax model, and much more financial investment and capital and business opportunities flow to those states. And in Oklahoma, we better get on board or we're going to keep getting left behind.
So would it be a consumption tax model to replace, or just certain activities that would be taxed?
I prefer to use the word activity. We in states like Florida, Texas, Tennessee, South Dakota, Wyoming, even the more liberal state of Washington, they have figured out that it's better to tax sales and some services that happen at the point of an financial transaction than it is to tax labor. And that's where dollars and money get more attractive. It's also somewhat more fraud-proof. We know there's people not paying their income taxes.
Yeah.
You can't really hide your activity when you're paying for sales or services.
Well, and it's definitely worth a look. I guess the only concern that we have sometimes when we shift to a different model, okay, it starts out at, let's say, 1%, and then is the legislature going to hike that up to eventually 10%?
Keep this in mind. When we say that Tennessee's got 58% more economic growth than we do over a decade with a no income tax model and a activity-based model, they have better roads, better reading outcomes, better healthcare delivery, and more jobs and higher wages. So they figured it out. We can do it too.
Yeah, they're getting all the brides to be and the bachelorette parties in Nashville right now. We need to get them over here. No,
I don't know anything about that, Tom.
I'm married too, so I'm just kidding. Mike Mazzei is a candidate for governor, the Republican primary coming up on July 16th. Let's stay with taxes for a bit, because there's been a lot of talk about property tax. Some proposals floated out to do away with it altogether. Others, there's a state question to change the homestead exemption, as far as the amount they can raise every year. You have a plan to eliminate it for seniors and veterans, right?
Yes. We have talked with seniors and veterans all across the state of Oklahoma that have been dealing with 30, 40, 50% increases on their property taxes, Todd, over the last 10 years, along with massive inflation on their homeowners insurance, massive inflation on prescription drug costs. And after you've contributed to the community 30, 40 years, We just don't think seniors and career military veterans should have to pay rent to the government for their retirement years and basically get what amounts to a 3% tax increase every year. Now, fortunately, in most counties, tax receipts from seniors 65 and older only accounts for 10% of the total tax collections. I've crunched the numbers, say, for example, in Oklahoma County, and their tax collections are growing 7-8% per year. Well, if we phase out the property taxes for seniors 65 and older over a 2 or 3 year period, we'll still see Oklahoma County collecting 2 to 3% net increase in property taxes over that 2 year period. So the right way to do it is to phase it out over time. So core services for counties and school infrastructure still get handled appropriately.
Yeah, anytime you talk about property tax, you hear from obviously folks in education that are always concerned about that.
Yeah, property taxes in Oklahoma fund infrastructure.
Yeah.
It's the state's sales and income tax items, gross production taxes that fund teacher salaries, operational costs. So again, there's a right way to handle reform. So we take appropriate care of core services, pay teachers more, pay for the school bonds, but get real relief to these seniors and veterans across the state who are scared of losing their homes because they're just burdened by this massive amount of inflation. And keep in mind, when you're in your retirement years, your income's not going up 3, 5, 7% per year like everything else they're dealing with.
Yeah, it's true. You know, I think of my dad, you know, when my mom and he built their house back in 1957. Houses were cheaper back then. And here you are all those years later, still living in the same house, and the property tax has been going up 3%. And just because they were smart and actually saved some money, they don't qualify for some of these exemptions right now. And they're not wealthy by any means.
And I don't like these ideas that some of the other folks in this race are talking about in terms of, well, let's freeze their property taxes or let's decrease the annual amount of inflation. That doesn't help these folks that are struggling with the affordability of life and the inflation that they've experienced of 30, 40, 50%. So we're very optimistic about the reception we're getting to abolish property taxes for seniors and veterans and do it in a responsible manner over a 2 to 5 year period. So core services at the county level will be just fine.
Mike Mazzei is our guest this morning on the Wake Up Show. We'll turn our attention to education and some other issues next. We'll take a quick break. Back with more on the Western Oklahoma Wake Up Show.
Are you tired of the same old political BS? Politicians making promises that they never keep? Well, Rick Cook's different. He's not a politician. He's tough, hardworking businessman and family man who cares about Western Oklahoma. A Trump conservative, Rick Cook will stand for your Christian values and fight to make America great again.
Hi, I'm Rick Cook. Help me make Western Oklahoma great again. Paid for by Friends of Rick Cook, 2026.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-264-0149 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-264-0149. That's 800-264-0149. What do you have to lose? Call 800-264-0149. Again, 800-264-0149.
Congratulations, Paris Verdex of Anadarko High School, Avery Gilbreth of Apache High School, Caitlin Nouse of Carnegie High School, Cody Metz of Binger-Oney High School, Juliana Pappy of Union City High School, and Sawyer Wilrath of Mustang High School. These seniors earned a $1,000 scholarship through CK Energy's Senior Scholarship Contest. Committed to our youth, that is part of the CK Energy commitment.
CK Energy, we light up your life.
Now at McDonald's, there's a meal deal with your name on it. And your name doesn't have to be meal or deal to get it. But it can be.
With McValue, get a meal deal featuring a McDouble, 4-piece McNuggets, fries, and a small Coke, all for just $6. Or swap that McDouble for a hot and spicy or classic McChicken at just $5. Price of participation may vary. Promotion pricing may be lower than meal pricing. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Locally owned and operated by the Phillips family. All right, welcome back to the Western Oklahoma Wake Up Show. Our guest is former State Senator Mike Mazzei, is a candidate for governor on the Republican side. The primaries coming up on June 16th. There was some legislation that came out this year to try to do something about reading, especially at the third grade level. You have a plan for readers and really education in general, don't you?
Yes, I applaud the legislature for passing the Strong Readers Act, and they're reinforcing some accountability to attempt to get kids reading by third grade, because after third grade they have to learn to read. But they're missing two significant elements on a statewide literacy program that will be successful. I've literally, Todd, had a meeting with the statewide literacy director of Mississippi. Her name is Amanda Malone, and I wanted to talk about their most critical elements because their model took them from 50th to first in the country in reading outcomes. And, of course, Oklahoma, unfortunately, is 49th. And when we say 80% of kids aren't reading at grade level, that means 500,000 Oklahoma students aren't reading at grade level. Well, the most important element of the Mississippi model is they have 6 reading curriculum that are approved by their State Department of Education, and it's totally phonics-based. They got rid of this liberal education, balanced literacy curriculum that's been a disaster across the entire country. And unfortunately, the legislature didn't deal with the 24 reading curriculum of our State Department of Education that's still embedded with this balanced literacy curriculum mess that our 541 school districts can choose from. So one of my first executive orders as Oklahoma's next governor will be to direct the State Department of Education to terminate all that reading curriculum and get it replaced with phonics-based curriculum that works. Second is you have to have the right amount of resources dedicated to reading coaches, specialists, and what Mississippi calls regional coordinators. From a big picture standpoint, they put $15 million a year to have the right amount of personnel for 400,000 students. The legislature this year, with the Strong Readers Act program, only appropriated $10 million a year, and we have 700,000 students.
Wow.
So if you don't have the right curriculum and you don't have the right manpower, I'm concerned the third grade reading focus won't be successful. But in my first week as governor, I will hire a statewide literacy director to implement these other critical elements along with the Strong Readers Act. And we think over a decade we can change the reading outcomes for tens of thousands of Oklahoma students so they can be better prepared for life and a great job.
And I'm sure you agree, as a parent yourself, some of it has to start at home. Yes, we know every kid doesn't grow up with parents that read to them at night, which is weird to me because that's something we did when my son was even in the womb, you know. But if you just do social promotion, no matter if they're literate or not, nothing's ever going to change, right?
Yeah, I've seen some just bizarre strategic plans of some of these school districts that were hijacked by liberal, left-leaning emphasis on social emotional learning. And, we don't want to ignore some of the challenges that students are facing, but they've got these kids for 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
They can teach them to read, and I have literally witnessed phonics-based programs that just drill phonics and reading with the students. We can get these kids reading if we have the right curriculum, the right manpower, and the right accountability.
Well, education's a big issue. We could spend the rest of our time talking about that, but I did want to talk about another area you're focused on. Okay, voters several years ago approved medical marijuana, and we're trying to roll back some of the craziness of that with so many growers out there. But one thing that's happened, we've been invaded by Chinese, foreign nationals, and other people buying up our property here, illegal grow operations. I mean, how do we stop that?
The Donnie Anderson, the director of Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics, testified in 2025 to the United States Congress. Oklahoma is the #1 producer of marijuana in the country.
That's great. More than California.
The legislature totally failed. The leadership of the legislature totally failed after medical marijuana was passed by the people to have the appropriate guardrails that other states have. And as a consequence, we've learned from law enforcement that they believe the Chinese Communist Party owns land in all 77 counties.
Yeah.
That is a public safety and a national security crisis because you've got this nexus of drug trafficking and human trafficking that goes on with the marijuana business. And we've got 5 major military installations.
Yeah.
So the CCP could launch a strike with drones on one of our facilities anytime they wanted. And what is really upsetting and outrageous is the Oklahoma Constitution in Article 22 forbids the foreign ownership of land. But what leaders in the legislature did, in addition to being asleep on the wheel, is they passed some sham legislation that actually created new loopholes. There's literally an affidavit process that has to be implemented when you buy land or minerals in the state of Oklahoma. From Senate Bill 212, your readers can look it up, 2023. Every land purchase, when this affidavit is processed, can check a box that says, I'm not a citizen of the United States, but an alien who is or shall become a bona fide resident of the state of Oklahoma. I got a copy of it right here. I can show it to you, Todd. You check that box, you can buy anything you want in the state of Oklahoma. On my first day in office, in Trump-like fashion, if you will, I will sign an executive order to close that outrageous loophole. And then once we implement some appropriate guardrails of hiking the cost to have a grow farm and limiting the size or land space like other states do on how much marijuana you can grow, the Chinese and the Mexican cartels, they'll just leave.
Well, that's what we need. And you can understand some individual landowners that didn't really understand what was happening. Maybe they've been losing money as a farmer. Somebody came in and said, hey, I'm willing. I'm going to give you 3 times what it's worth.
Some company called XYZ with some P.O. box offered them a boatload of money. Shoot. I get it, but we got to fix this problem because no other state in the union has this mess on their hands.
Yeah, it's the wild, wild west, and that's one of the scary things about having things go through state questions because it's outside groups that write these things, and you have to try to fill in the details later, and we certainly missed the boat on that. Another state question that's coming up that has a lot of us, in the business world scared about this minimum wage increase.
Yeah, State Question 832. Everybody, please vote against it. I'm a small business owner, 30 employees. we work tremendously hard to not only have great people, but pay them well. But wherever there has been forced minimum wages on business in a community or in a nation, the data is really clear. It always hurts employment opportunities for younger workers that are in high school or starting out their careers. So it's just a terrible idea. We, in contrast, my plan for economic growth in the state is to, 1, change our tax policy, 2, get kids reading at grade level, and 3, we want to resource our 29 career techs that have, according to the director of Oklahoma Career Techs, 7,500 students on the waiting list.
Wow.
Well, there was some financial nonsense that went on in this latest budget agreement, like an absurd $200 million investment fund for a political insider to manage, when the career tech system got a 0 increase. Well, these 7,500 waiting list applicants out there at these career techs, there's 29 of them in this part of Oklahoma, Western Technology Center. The best thing we can do for these young adults is get them trained as an electrician or a plumber or an aircraft mechanic or a car mechanic or a healthcare technician, because I hear from employers all over the state, Todd, they're looking for younger workers that are skilled and ready to work. And the best thing we can do for growth and opportunity for a workforce, if you will, is help a young adult get a great skill that's a great job and a great career.
Everybody's still going to have an air conditioning or heater system that needs to be repaired. And those guys are making more than radio DJs, I can tell you. It's a great skill.
Those trade skills are protected from the threat of artificial intelligence.
Exactly.
So that's a big part of our economic plan. And then the fourth piece is to stop this silliness of sending hundreds of millions of dollars to foreign companies or green energy scams, and collaborate with Oklahoma-based businesses that are hungry for that next layer of growth. Instead of these massive mega deals, which roll out the Brinks truck and get a few jobs that send the profits overseas, we want to work with Oklahoma's small businesses. Imagine 5,000 Oklahoma-based businesses that learn some best practices and some growth strategies and then qualify for a no-interest loan, and they grow 10 jobs each over 4 years. It's not going to make the front pages like a mega deal will, but it's 50,000 permanent jobs, and all the profits stay right here in Oklahoma.
Mike Mazzei is our guest this morning, candidate for governor. So in our remaining time, just bottom line it for the people why you're the best choice for governor of our great state.
Well, in elections, it's always kind of frustrating because there's, this stuff that says how awful things are, how bad the other candidates are. And I think the one thing that sets the Mazzei campaign apart, Todd, is we're talking about real solutions and a real plan. And when true conservatives unite in faith and freedom around a solid plan that can make Oklahoma a no-income tax state, abolish property taxes for seniors and veterans, get our kids reading at grade level, secure the land of Oklahoma for the people of Oklahoma, and get our young adults equipped with a skilled trade, together we can launch a golden age of growth and prosperity right here in Oklahoma.
All right, the primary election coming up on June 16th. Everybody needs to get out and vote. And if people want more information about you,
please check out MikeForOK.com. There's lots of detail on the Mazzei plan for more growth and opportunity. We would just treasure and be blessed by your interest and your support. And as Todd said, please remember to vote on June 16th.
All right. Mike Mazzei, our guest this morning, thank you again for your time, and God bless you.
Love being here, and Thanks for having a great show, Todd.
All right. Thanks a lot. Back with more right after this.
The Declaration of Deals sales event is happening now at Cummins Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Weatherford. Whether you're looking for power, performance, or everyday reliability, Cummins has the perfect ride ready to roll. And here's savings you don't want to miss. Drive home in a brand new 2026 Ram truck and get a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty for added peace of mind. Test drive all CDJR models. Cummins Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Weatherford, just off I-40, or at CumminsChrysler.com.
Deer Creek Market and Variety in Hydro, the best in friendly small-town customer service, hosting everything from fresh hand-cut steaks, fresh ground beef made in-house, along with fresh fruits and vegetables, grown and made in Oklahoma nuts, candies, salsas, pickles, and more. And don't forget to check out the Variety side, full of unique made-in-Oklahoma gift items. And now, treat yourself to the brand-new ice cream and coffee parlor, your new go-to spot for a sweet scoop or a fresh brew. Shop Deer Creek Market and Variety in Hydro.
All right, 7:35. John Matthews joining us from the News Center. Good morning to you.
Howdy, sir. Good morning. Happy Thursday.
Yeah. Man, this month is going fast.
Yeah, no, May's almost over. It's here, and then June, and in July, and then we're back to school already. So it's time to get the school shopping out of the way. I think that's kind of what the platform, right, of all the governors. They spend more money in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Is that not to foreign...
Well, the big thing is just don't be an Obama liberal.
Oh, okay.
Because it turns out that all 9 candidates secretly are Obama liberals.
That's
if
weird.
You believe the TV commercials out there and the mailers and stuff. So,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's who is the least Obama liberal in this campaign? But no, it's I'm telling you, it's crazy to have this many people in the race. A lot of people think it's really a 4-person race.
Who would you? Because I saw the polling came out, which showed a lot closer than we thought. But who knows how accurate polling is?
Well, for the longest time, Gentner Drummond was the front runner, even really before the campaign. Name recognition has a lot to do with that. And then people thought Charles McCall was in second place. Then Chip Keating made a run, and now Mike Mazzei is making a run. In fact, this latest poll that came out showed Mazzei with the lead. So, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But I would say most likely we will see a runoff, obviously, in August, and I think Cindy Munson wins the Democratic side pretty easily,
right?
Even though that's a 3-person race, and then we'll see her, in the general election against,
Which Keating was his dad was governor?
Yeah,
Is that the right one?
yeah. Frank Keating was governor, and, pretty good governor in the state. He was the governor during the Oklahoma City bombing.
Oh.
If you think back to that, I was in California at the time. I was just here for the last of his term, but he represented us well during that time. Didn't really know anything about Chip until he came in. I've actually enjoyed talking to all the candidates, and I still haven't made up my mind, though.
No, that's the question
Yeah.
I was going to ask. Is it you leaning any direction? Or?
I'm not really yet. I don't think there's there's one person I think is awful, and I won't mention that until I do my diatribe the day of the primary. There's one person that is definitely not a Republican that is in this race that I haven't been a fan of his entire career.
Okay.
You can think about that, but I'll share it as we get into
a little closer. But we're here, Todd. 2 weeks from Tuesday. You're
I
voting,
know.
which is weird that it's already it's that fast.